with such a long career, I wondered what inspired you to get into green roofs. Did you stumble upon it? Was it something that's in your family? Is it something that you studied for? How did it work?
Yeah, it's very simple. After school, I decided to start a trade in Germany. Obviously, in some other European countries, you have a trade system for a certain profession. And the original trade I had in mind was not possible, only in certain area. This was something with fishery, but also protecting oceans and stuff like that. This was back then very complicated, and I had to travel even in the apprenticeship a lot,
Right.
more or less on own costs. And then I said, okay, I don't want to leave home. So my alternative was basically
your practical alternative.
Yes, yes, was going into landscaping. And I had contact to a landscaping company back then. They were already building green roofs, and they were telling me about that. And I thought this is a really exciting idea. I didn't understand at all what they were talking about, but I just thought this is really exciting. And then on my first day as I started, and this was the 1st of September in 1980.
Okay. Important day.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I have still all the reports from them, and because you have to write reports and all that stuff, you know. So I still have all that things, and this was basically, I was pushed into a team that went to a project and up on a roof. First, I didn't really get the idea, but then you arrive on this building. It was an office building, and then you had to walk up the stairs, and then you were on the roof. You just see roofing, and then you said, okay, that's where we are today. And then I thought, kind of pretty cool, because I can look down all the landscapers down there.
You felt above the world.
Yes, I thought this was really. I felt almost privileged to be up on the roof, you know, and so yeah, from there the fascination started, and so I was since then involved in many green roofs projects. I worked 5 years for this company all together. And green roofs are also part of the professional education system back then already at school, at the landscaping school.
Okay.
And yeah, and so it is an item for landscaping companies, especially in Germany, that's very normal. It's not like something special or where they make a big fuss out of it, like in the US, you know, where they don't have a solid and good training system. You know, you can answer a couple of questions and you can call yourself a professional, which is
it doesn't have the in-depth training that you had. That actually was leading to my next question. How did you end up in the United States and exporting your knowledge and your experience over there?
Yeah, I had I started a small company focused on green roofs and water features in Germany. So I needed the balance. The green roofs, extensive green roofs, are succulent type of plants, so dry plants, but I also need the water plants. So I was in both levels, and at some point I got a call from a friend, meanwhile, obviously from the United States. And he was asking me whether I can help him with a green roof. And he got my name through a green roof material supplier, the largest supplier in the world. I worked with them often together. I made a lot of trainings there. And yeah, he got the name there because they thought this is kind of a weird guy. Why you want to go to the US? And I thought this is really cool. And so we scheduled a meeting in Chicago. He paid the flight to Chicago. And then in Chicago, I realized that this was the City Hall of Chicago, the project he was talking about.
Wow, okay, impressive.
And so we had the first meeting with all the city people on the, I don't know, maybe 30th floor in a high-rise building. Super exciting for me. I thought you can see a lot. Well, the meeting room in the
Even
middle
higher
of the
than when you started in Germany.
Yes. But their meeting rooms are in the middle of the building. There's no window, there's artificial light, and the air conditioning is always on freezing temperatures. And then they had all these questions, and yeah, my friend, he was trying to answer all of these, and I helped him a little bit what to say, until they wanted to know from me how to build a green roof. And then I told them in 10 minutes how I would do it, because this was my daily business.
Yeah.
And this is, that's the first time as I went into these cultural differences. You cannot just say in the United States, this is how you do it and that's how it's be done. This is too much for them. You have to give them the options and the variables and all these things. It's just the way as they do business. Yeah. But at the end of my 10 minutes presentation, nobody was talking to me anymore. How can he just come and say and tell us how to do
things?
Well, I learned that, and my friend said after the meeting, okay, the next time when we have a meeting, I ask you a question, you answer me, and then I try to explain to them.
Yeah, I've lived, my family has had property in the States for many years in the southern part in Florida. As you say, there are lots of cultural differences. It's you know, as there are everywhere, good things, bad things, things that we've got to adapt to in each place. And it's always interesting to approach, which is wonderful that nowadays the world is such a small place.
It's a small place, but there are still these cultural differences. And
I think it's nice as well.
Yeah. And this is why I have somebody said that a couple of years ago, that I am controversial discussed in the industry. So everybody calls me if there is something, but meanwhile, I send ahead and say that I will say it in a very direct way I don't want to offend anybody. It's simply professional, but I just want to merge it down to the point. And then a lot of
well, that's very German. I mean,
yes, yeah. I mean, and this is a lot of clients. They say, "Oh no, this is exactly what we need. We need somebody who tells what's going on. We don't need somebody who is kind of floating around everywhere." You know, so yeah.
So you must have had over the years. Sorry, you must have had over the years some very interesting projects. What would you say is like your project that you would highlight in your career?
Well, there is not really one project. I think there's a couple projects. And before I started in the US, I did a huge warehouse with around, I would say, I don't really know anymore, 50 or 60,000 square meters. So much more than 500,000 square feet, a project.
I live in Spain. I work in meters too.
Yeah. And this was a project, it was all about stormwater retention there. So there was no other way for them to build this building there if they cannot retain more than 80% of the stormwater on the roof.
Right.
And so this was a project where I was able to put a team together with 5 landscaping companies, and each company brought 5 people where I knew that they are experienced to the site, and then we were able to build that in less than 6 weeks. Actually, it was at the end 6, maybe 8 weeks. There was in the following year a little bit something, but this was for me personally a great achievement when you have every day at least 5 or 6 truckloads, semi-truckloads of material coming to the site, and you distribute that on these huge areas. This was for me kind of a big highlight, and that this entire property has literally 0 runoff that goes somewhere in a wastewater facility or something. All the stormwater is treated and reused on site. This is interesting. And then City Hall, obviously, in Chicago was for me.
So it did happen, the City Hall. Despite your presentation, the City Hall did happen.
Yes, exactly. Did happen. And I was responsible for many things, but also to oversee the installation and help the guys. And this is still my strength, that I can really, with my hands, help the guys to put the things on the roof in the right way, and also in a way that they don't have back pain in the evening. So it's
Right.
for me, it's very important that I know how to put things together with my own hands. And this was on this project especially interesting because we were only able to work at night. So we could only start at 7 o'clock in the evening until around 5 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh, all right.
And yeah, this was for me a completely new experience. But you had to, for the crane, you had to block the roads. And in Chicago, getting permits for something like that is very difficult.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
When I started with the team in the evening to block the roads, I mean, you basically block a 5-lane road to 1 lane. You know, you carry the signs out there and everybody is getting crazy and beeping. And I had it almost 3 or 4 times that a police car stopped and wanted to yell at me and what we are doing there. And then I said, well, we are building a green roof. I don't know what it is. And then I said, yeah, but this is for the mayor of Chicago. Oh, the mayor. And then
I have permission. So what would you say in modern architecture and today, the applications of green roof, what would you say are the advantages of green roof, both for the users and for the environment?
Well, we have to, I mean, let's start a little bit bigger if we have the time for that. So each time when you put a building in a certain place, you have to remove a piece of nature.
Right.
So it is it is very logical to me that we have to replace this nature somewhere. Right. But we cannot remove somewhere else some nature and put some other nature on it that was there before.
On top.
So exactly, the simplest way is you take this nature. I mean, you cannot really do that, but you take the nature, put it aside, build the structure, and then you take this nature and put it on top of it. Yes, and then you have, from this perspective, from the environmental impact of the land, you have 0 impact. This would be the ideal situation. And there are projects that are doing that. However, there's additional benefits when it comes to the stormwater retention. This is and reducing the runoff of a building, which is right now in Europe, obviously in southern Germany and many places in Germany with the flooding, a big issue. And despite of having so many green roofs there, the issues is still existing, but it would be much, much more dramatic without the green roofs.
Right.
When I look at the news and see the flooding, especially in southern Germany, these are typically smaller places, smaller villages. They have so much nature around it, and they always thought we don't need green roofs because we have so much nature around. But now in a situation like that, they are starting to realize we need more
because
green
how thick, should I say, is the soil? How much soil is there on a green roof?
So for a roof garden, it can be any depth from approximately 30 centimeters to, I have depths on some green roofs, they go up to 3 or 4 meters.
Oh, wow.
So they can be very, but the extensive green roof, what we call the shallow system, that's typically around 10 to 12 centimeters deep. Also depending on the location. So in a warmer location, Mallorca, for example, I would make it at least 12 centimeters, more likely 15 centimeters. So in areas with more drier Mediterranean, for example, weather conditions, you want to make it deeper, that the plants have enough space to send out the roots.
Right.
And you retain more water because you have then also more heavier rainfalls, you retain more water of that. But for the plants, and a lot of people say with irrigation and all that stuff in areas like that, when you make it deep enough, the water is for most of the plants not the issue. They would have enough, but it's the soil temperature. And if you are in a desert area, I have worked on a project in the Emirates and some other places like that. When you have a shallow system, the temperature in the zone with the roots is getting too hot, and then the plants have an issue. When you create deeper rooting space for these plants, let's say 15 or even 20 centimeters, then they have a cooler area, and then they operate often just like a little air conditioner. where they just exchange the cold liquid with the warm liquid within the plants.
Right.
And so the survival of plants in a deeper system in hotter climates is obviously better.
Okay. And as far as rain, do you need, for more storm absorption, as you were mentioning, do you need thicker then as well?
So
when it comes to flooding and all this?
Yes, I mean, a thicker system would retain more water, and
Right.
it would delay the runoff longer. So
Yeah.
this would be no question. But I also, and maybe that question goes into that, a lot of people ask me, do I need to irrigate that? Do I need to have an irrigation system?